Hi, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. This is going to be a great afternoon. Let me tell you, we're going to take a trip. Our first trip is going to be out to Paradise. We'll check in with Nosara Paradise Rentals, where Craig Sutton will bring us the latest word from the hottest billfish destination anywhere around. I love getting his reports. Then we'll come back to Florida. We'll start with David Voorhees, work our way down the northeast coast to the east central, around through the Keys, up the west coast, and we're going to get the latest reports, but we're going to do something extra tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've all got fish if you've done it long enough. Captain Nick Stanczyk talked about it last week. He fought a swordfish for 7 hours and pulled it. Well, actually didn't pull the hooks on him. Actually, the leader parted as they were trying to get home before midnight. I know that fish will haunt Captain Nick for a long time, and we've all got those fish. I know I've got one. My goodness, we hooked a blue marlin one time in the Bahamas. It was so fast. I saw her when she ate the bait, and she was so fast when she cut across our other outrigger line, it sawed it in two without even any pressure, just the incredible speed. I can see that fish in my dreams, and I think all lifetime fishermen have got that. It's going to be fun to hear about all the guys this evening talking about it. Hey, remember, this Action Spotter, along with every week's broadcast, is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, it's the best chum on earth. And by Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. We can't forget Young Boats. You want the finest in flats, bay, and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Let's get rolling tonight. Let's head out to Nosara, Costa Rica, and check in with our buddy Craig Sutton. Craigie, how are you?
Good, Captain Ricky.
Good. It's good to be here and talk to you. Tell me what's been happening on the boats off Nosara.
Well, the sailfish bite, it started actually slowing up a couple of weeks ago. It's still good, though. It's still 3, 4, 5 fish on a day, and some critters mixed in, some little yellowfin and some mahi, but not quite as on fire as it was. But we're catching a good number of marlin. We had another full marlin week. Yeah. I mean, it's like, guys going out, he's getting 3 or 4 sailfish, getting a marlin, 2 or 3 yellowfin, and a mahi. I mean, it's good fishing. It's not quite the monster numbers that we were getting on the sailfish, but I think that's just a matter of finding another good school, because that school we were fishing literally came all the way up from Panama, and everybody in Central America had been fishing it. So it's just a matter of us getting another school, which I'm heading down there tomorrow, and trust me, we'll be looking for one.
How about that? Now, talking about marlin, that's a fish you weren't on with us last week while we were talking with Captain Nick Stanczyk down in the Keys, and he had fought a sword, and as you know, he has caught some monster swords. Well, they had fought a sword for over 6 hours. I want to say it was 7, and they finally had to dial up so much pressure on the fish to get the party back to the dock, and the splice failed. I tell you, Nick was depressed about it. Have you got one that bothers you to this day?
I got tons of them.
Yeah, I know that. We all got them, but what?
The latest one was in November. Me and Alex were trolling this squid. It was a bigger squid than what we've been using. We've been using a 7-inch. We went to an 11-inch squid, white with green flakes. I was jigging it, and he nails that thing. We had him on a 50 wide, and with like 200-pound leader. Fought him, and we've learned down there not to chase those big yellowfin because they will never tire out. So we just put the boat in neutral and kept getting him to the boat. We got him right there at the very end, and he was tiring out because I was putting just maximum pressure on him. He was conservatively, he was over 74 inches. I think he was probably closer to 76, 78. Definitely a 240, 50-pound yellowfin. And got him right to the boat, literally getting ready to stick the gaff in him, and whoop, the doggone, the crimp, the side of the crimp broke.
Oh, no. Oh,
the shoulder, the outside edge of the crimp broke.
And it let loose.
they come unplugged. But you want me to keep going? I got about several more.
yeah, we don't have till midnight. I could get started on the same kind of thing. Oh, by the way, most of mine were my fault some way or the other. So, but we had a.
Well, I was probably putting too much pressure on this fish, but with those big yellowfins, you got to put the heat to them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you really do. They don't tire out like a regular fish does.
They'll go forever if you let them. No, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah, absolutely.
That's a good one. I think we've all got them, and I'm thankful. I hope I have some more. I hope I've got some more monsters in my future that I lose.
Well, Ricky, let's think about it. I mean, if you don't, you're not fishing enough.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And that's just the way it goes. It's this kind of sport we're involved in.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you so much, Craig. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely. Be looking forward to it.
Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great Costa Rica report. Now let's start the great state of Florida. And we're going to start it up in the Northeast with our buddy Captain David Voorhees. David, the temperature's warming up. Feels mighty good outside.
Yeah, Ricky, it sure is. We did get a little cold snap that came in, dropped the water temperature back down quite a bit, about 5 degrees, but it's still above 60. So it was hovering today about 62, 63 degrees. The water is really, it's absolutely gorgeous. We haven't had a lot of rain to muddy things up. So the quality of the water is just absolutely gorgeous, just what I like to see. With that being said, today was an exceptional day, especially with the flounder. All this week we've been seeing some really good flounder bites, but nothing really big. Yeah, today we started seeing some 3-pounders and some 4-pounders come aboard.
That's good ones.
And that's a nice flatty, Anytime you get a flounder that's, to me, above the 3-pound, 4 or 5 pound range,
yeah,
those are fun fish, really good. They really, really do excite you when you pull them up beside the boat because, flounders aren't known for their vicious bite or anything like that. They sort of come in, I tell people, it's almost like bringing in a boot, when you're bringing a flounder, and sometimes it's just dead weight. And, man, when you see that behemoth come up beside the boat, there is nothing more exciting. However, we are seeing a lot of big reds. I'm talking, in the mid to high 30 inchers. And I think that's going to be the new norm, Rick. I really do. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of these oversized reds up and down the intercoastal waterway. And you're going to start hearing more reports of guys pretty much catching them every day. We're catching them almost on every charter. I can pretty much expect to catch a 30 to 35 inch redfish. And on the light tackle that I like to use, there's few fish, especially when you pull one up out of 20 feet of water. He's going to give you a real good fight. He's going to make your clients happy, get them excited because they know they got a monster on the end of that line. And when they see that fish come up to the surface, that big 33-inch red, the excitement from these anglers, it's just fantastic. Also, the trout this week, still a good, strong bite. These are trout that, and you can just tell they're silver, they're real shiny, they're clean, and they hit with just aggression. And yet they really want that target moving. Trout want a moving target. The way I fish for trout and the way I fish for reds are totally different. I like to fish very slow for the redfish. I always say, hey, you can never fish too slow, but you can fish too fast for the redfish. Well, the trout are almost the complete opposite. They want something moving, and they love those plastic paddle tail grubs, the chartreuse, the whites, really working good. And when they hit with authority, and I just absolutely love trout fishing.
Dave, how about swim baits like bomber long A's, that type of stuff? Are they producing?
Absolutely. And I did a lot of research on trout over the many, many years that I've been fishing because I've always been fascinated with them. And what the studies show is that most of your big gator trout, these are big females coming in now to start their spawns. They'll start spawning on these moons. They'll start developing a row. They tend to be minnow eaters. They tend to like the finger mullets, the mud minnows. They want small fish. Anything that'll imitate a minnow, a mullet, finger mullet, a mud minnow, anything like that is just prime artificial bait for spotted sea trout.
There's newer and fancier, but that old bomber is pretty hard to beat when it comes to a live diver.
Rick, are we hearing anything from the offshore guys? Were they able to get out this weekend, or?
There were several blackfin tuna caught. There were a few wahoo caught and a few mahi caught. So it has certainly started. The bottom fishing has improved in 21 fathoms. The problem, and it's becoming a problem all up and down the coast, has been the big sharks. They're taking away an awful lot of fish that guys are reeling up, and it's getting to be a real issue. Of course, we're not harvesting sharks now, and that makes it very hard for the fishermen sometimes to get their fish through the sharks. But the fishing's improving. That's the good news. The weather's improving. I think it's time for us to get very serious about this thing we call fishing. Thank you, David.
All right, Rich. Talk to you next week, buddy.
Appreciate it. Tight lines. Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now, let's hop down the East Coast a little ways and pull over around Rockledge and talk with our buddy Jim Ross. Jim, how are you?
Doing great this week, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. Easter, man, it was fantastic. Loving every minute of this weather.
Well, you just mentioned the best day of the entire year for the Christian faith.
Yep. And I celebrated it. Almost my whole family at the hunting property up in Georgia. We had family church. It was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yep.
So Captain Troy Perez, I talked with him today. He had a really good day on the Black Drum in the Mosquito Lagoon. He was saying that they were eating, cut crab. He found a big school of them, and he said the fish were, a little even bigger than some of those fish that we had been mentioning over the past month or two, 20 to 35 pound class fish.
Ooh.
He actually found a couple of fish that were over 40 pounds today. And one thing that you can believe about Troy is the weights on his fish.
Mm-hmm.
20-pound redfish is 40 inches long, 42 inches long. Not a 40-pound redfish is 40 inches long.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Troy, and so when Troy tells you that he caught black drum that were over 40 pounds, you can take that to the bank. We're still in this wonderland as to where the heck the cobia are. I got a report of some rays out on the beach again today, right between the Cape and the Falls Cape. No cobia on. Lots of rays, no cobia. So we're shaking our heads and scratching our heads, trying to figure out where is this mass of cobia? Where are they at? I don't know. You talking with other guys around the state? Is anybody seeing good groupings of cobia in their offshore waters?
I understand there are some south of you, Jim. There's some.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's some south of Sebastian a little bit, but
okay.
We'll see. From what I understand, there's two big groups of rays. The first group of rays does not have cobia. The second group that's further south down around Sebastian does have cobia.
Well, I can attest to the fact that the first group doesn't have cobia.
Well, we'll check with
they're right here. They're right here in the Central East region right now.
We'll check with Captain John Earhart here in a few minutes and find out. Hey, as I let you go, and we got to kind of cut it short here, but tarpon get so much credit, and they are such a fantastic fish, and they are so beautiful when they jump. Is there anything hotter than a hot spinner shark?
I don't think so. I don't think so. After seeing, the couple of displays that we saw today, they just absolutely go berserk. It's incredible to see those fish, the energy that they put into trying to escape whatever they think it is trying to get them. And that hook's trying to get them, and they absolutely lose their minds trying to escape that thing.
I can promise you, I was a tarpon guide for 11 years, and I can promise you I had a better batting average on tarpon than I did 80 to 120 pound spinner sharks.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Rick.
Cap, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'm looking forward to it, as a matter of fact.
I'll see if John can send you some cobia. Thank you, buddy. Hey, most of us guys here on Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast are hardcore saltwater fishermen. until April rolls around. That's because there's just nothing more exciting than watching a largemouth explode on a DOA PT being walked weedless through some fresh new grass beds. Want a jolt to make your heart skip a beat? Try swimming a weedless DOA snake through some lily pads with dawn's fog still on the water. Once the sun comes up, the DOA worms can dredge Big Mama off her bed with the best of them. DOA gives you the unfair advantage. Our thanks to Jim Ross for a great East Central report. Now, let's stop in one of my favorite little fishing villages, Stuart, Florida, sailfish capital of the world, before we realized that there were other countries that had sailfish, and check in with our buddy John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, buddy. How's fishing in Stuart?
Fishing's been pretty good. Looks like we got some real good conditions this week for sail fishing. The bait fish have been a little hard to catch outside the St. Lucie Inlet. I've been settling for blue runners, some goggle eyes, even been using some grunts when I'm creek fishing or slow trolling live baits with the mylar dredges. And that action's been like 90 to about 160 feet of water. And if there's no real condition in the shallower stuff, I might shoot out to like 350 feet of water this time of year, usually around Push Button Hill. You know, and there's generally a nice weed line out there and an edge. And those sailfish will be out there this time of year, along with some mahi and some nicer blackfin tunas as well.
Oh, that sounds real good. Anything been going on inshore?
The inshore fishing this week's been really good. We've been catching a lot of snook, a lot of jack crevalles. Caught a bunch of sheep's head today, some nice flounder, and even a few redfish here and there as well.
That's good. I couldn't help but notice you didn't even mention cobia. It seems like everybody's wondering where they are. Have you got them hidden away in Stuart somewhere?
We were still catching some cobia, but I mean, as a general rule, February and March is the absolute peak of the cobia run, and then it kind of tapers off. But we still catch a couple each week, you know, up until about August. I mean, it's a year-round fishery here, but the peak of it is definitely going to be February and March, you know, and we'll get them into April if the bait fish are around. It seems like the bait fish just haven't really showed up, and the sharks have kind of thinned out a little bit because I think the water temps have dropped somewhat. But as soon as those sharks show back up on those shallower reefs and wrecks, you can expect a good little cobia run again, you know, and that'll happen in April and May as well. It's just, it'll be kind of sporadic now, whereas in March, it's like every day I can go out and guaranteed we're going to catch 4 or 5 cobias a trip.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it sounds like it's almost time to concentrate on mahi and sailfish down there, and that's a good thing. John, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. I look forward to talking to you all next week.
Thank you, John. Woo! We've survived winter, and my favorite time of year is here. It's time to put away the high-speed wahoo gear and break out some of the tackle that can put the fun back in blue water fishing. Listen, we all dream about the days when a blue marlin crashes our spread, but let's talk some facts here. Almost all the marlin we see off the coast of Florida are under 300 pounds, and we just don't see 50-pound dolphin like we used to. So why not stop by either one of the strike zones and check out the new Talica and Speedmasters designed to put the fun back in blue water fishing. What makes Shimano and Strike Zone the only team you need to know? That's because while you're buying your new weapons, the staff at Strike Zone can splice 500 yards of braid backing on your new reels just to make sure there's nobody in the blue water neighborhood that you can't handle. So stop by Strike Zone and feel the weight of the new Talavera rods matched with the Speedmaster or Talica reels. You'll see in a hurry that it's time to put the fun back in Florida blue water trolling. Now, let's take a hop, skip, and a jump down to Miami and check in with the mayor of South Beach, Captain Alan Sherman. Mr. Mayor, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, Rick. We're out here on the water enjoying a great snook bite today in North Biscayne Bay.
What a great evening to do it, too. Is this gorgeous or what?
Oh, yeah, no, it's beautiful here. We've got a live well full of pilchers and have had all day. And we've been live chumming and catching them on artificials and live baits, and it's just been a blast.
Oh, talk to me. Any big fish?
Well, we released them up to 32 inches, 11 and a half pounds.
That's fine.
And we just released our 12th fish.
Oh, that's wonderful, Alan. You're having a great trip. Trip. How's the week been?
The week has been great. You know, it was a little breezy earlier on, but now it's calmed down a little bit. And we're trying to make the best of a very, very busy spring break season here. There's so many people on the water. You would think these snook would have hard hats on, but they don't seem to be minding it too much.
Good. You heard anything from offshore?
The offshore bite continues to be tough. The guys are working really hard, fishing outside the outer reef, 80 feet out to, say, 300. They're getting a mixed bag of decent-sized kingfish, just not a lot of them. Blackfin tunas, quite a few blackfin tunas, and they're starting to get bigger now, up to 15 or 20 pounds. And then there's been some dolphin around, a few large ones, and then small ones. Today, I heard the guys talking about some floating debris offshore, and there were some wahoo underneath them.
Oh,
and we got a fish on. We got a good fish on. Get that fish. I don't know if we got him, but he just bent that rod. He's still out there. We'll get him next time. But no, they've been getting some wahoo under the floating debris out in the blue water. They've been getting a few dolphin out there, and then it's the blackfin tunas and the bonitas are keeping the guys busy most of the day. Only a few sailfish, not a lot. And, we're in April. April's a big month down here for sailfish. So I know the guys are just waiting eagerly for them to show up. The other good bite we have going on in Key Biscayne area, there's been quite a few tarpon along the shoreline from the Rickenbacker Causeway all the way over to the Seaquarium. They're catching them on live mullet early in the morning. And in the Yacht Channel by Key Biscayne, there's also some nice-sized tarpon there, and as well as the ocean inlets have been good on the outgoing tide. Other than that, the freshwater fishing is still off the charts. A lot of peacocks, a lot of cichlids, and a lot of largemouth bass.
Hey, I got to tell you, Nick Stanzik with his story last week, I'm not sure if you heard it or not, but they had a sword on for, I want to say, almost 7 hours. And finally, it had gotten dark, and the charters got to get home. So they just dialed up so much heat on the fish that eventually the splice failed and he got away. And Nick was he was depressed about it, understandably so.
Sure.
You got one that haunts you?
Well, I've got a million of them probably in a 30-plus year career on the water here. But one of them that I'll never forget, and that involved my son when he was really young on a flamingo trip that we had down there. We were fishing Middle Cape with jig heads and live ballyhoo. And we were throwing these baits up against the bank and letting them sink and then working them back to the boat. We were catching snook consistently. And we hooked up, my son hooked up on a fish on light tackle, 12-pound test. And the fish screamed off a bunch of line but didn't go towards the shoreline. It went towards the center of the inlet there, and we fought the fish for a long time until he was physically exhausted. And finally, I took the rod over and I kept pulling on that fish, and we got him to where it was straight up and down. Normally, you would think right away, well, it's either a ray or a shark, and you just break it off, or the fish would break it off. But this fish eventually wore through the leader, and we didn't get it. We lost him in probably about 8 or 10 feet of water. And, I just felt so bad because my son worked so hard to get the fish to the surface, and he just wouldn't come. And it was years before I hooked other fish like that I realized what we had hooked. And it was a sawfish, a big sawfish, way too big for the outfit we targeted.
I'll be darned.
With. And, that I wish he would have had the opportunity to have seen the fish up close. But, you're looking at a fish that was maybe 150 pounds. And definitely he did not want to come to the boat, and he didn't. But, yeah, that one bothers me, and I've still remembered it over, probably 20-something years later.
God, my daughter was fishing a junior angler tournament the last year she was eligible to do it, which means that she was past the point where she was interested in boys, and winning a tournament would be really cool. That would be an awesome thing to do. Well, her mother had a kingfish on, and I had a kingfish on, and a rod went off, and I said, "Get it, Jenny." And she's got it on, and we gaff our kings, and I said, "Jenny, you got him?" "No, Daddy, he's taking all my line." "No, he's not going to take all your line, So we put back over, and we catch a couple of kings. I said, "Jenny, you got him?" She goes, "No, Daddy, he's going to take all my line." And I go up to the bow of the boat and look, and I'm going, "Oh my God, he's going to take all our line." And I start following the fish, and Alan, it is the closest to shore off of Jacksonville that I've ever had a yellowfin tuna. And
wow.
this fish was probably 70. And she got it to the surface, and I reached out with the gaff, started to reach out with the gaff, and realized I had my kingfish gaff. And I thought, don't you stick him with that little gaff. He'll pull off of there, and you're in trouble. So I put down my little gaff and reached for my big one, and I had my back turned to her. Alan, she didn't start crying. She exploded into tears. I mean, the hook pulled. Oh, I mean, the fish, I had the fish dead to right. All I do is stick the gaff in him, and I didn't do it. I reached for a different gaff.
Well, you had a plan. It just didn't work.
Yeah, that 28-pounder that won it, she wasn't real happy about that. I can promise you. But, oh, golly, there's a bunch of them, but that one still hurts. Alan, we appreciate it so much. I look forward to talking with you next week.
Me too, Rick.
Thank you, Cap.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, thanks to Alan Sherman for a great Miami report. A sawfish haunts him more than any other fish. I don't think I have to ask our next captain. If you listened to last week's report, you know about Nick Stancic and how long was the fight with that swordfish, Nick?
7 hours, and it didn't end well.
7 hours. Man, oh, man. Does that one haunt you more than any fish ever, you think? It's got to be right up there.
I think that takes the cake. I've had some 4 or 5 hour battles that we lost, but never 7 hours. And we were close, but no cigar.
Oh, man, I tell you, we were fishing swords one night, and I put one of those old 10-aught black Senators in gear. I never should have bothered to put it in gear. It didn't impress the fish in the least. It was empty in no time. It was incredible. Yeah. Tell me how fishing's been this week.
I got out 2 trips last week. We had to cancel a couple because of wind. But we caught 1 swordfish the first day. We fished, not a monster, but a keeper, about 80, 85 pounds. And the second day, we had a nice family from South Carolina. They had a 6-year-old son named Peter, and we named him Pistol Pete within the first hour of the day. And we didn't get any swordfish that day, but we got 5 blackfin tunas, and one of them was 30 pounds.
Ooh, that's a good
had a couple mahis, but it was really fun, seeing a young kid like that and helping him out on the nice tunas, and he had us laughing all day.
Oh, that's fantastic. You can't beat that. That beats the heck out of a grumpy old man like me catching a swordfish anytime. Have you guys seen any sailfish lately? Boy, they've been scarce up and down the coast.
Just a few down here. I saw Joey on the Fearless today. He had 1 flag flying, and there's been a couple flags here and there. There's been quite a few yellowtail snappers, a few mutton snappers. The Kalex had a 46-pound king last week, so that was a big king for us to see.
Gotcha. All right, Nick. Hey, listen, we really appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Give us a call. We'll be here.
You got it. Thanks, Captain. Nick Stancic of the Broad-Minded out of Bud and Mary's, one of the premier swordfish captains in the country. I promise you that. All right, let's swing around to the West Coast, and we'll stop in 10,000 Islands. Check in with our man, Steve Dahl. Steve, how are you?
Oh, hero. You're my hero.
I hear you.
I can tell you that.
What's going on, Cap?
We're almost a week removed from a pretty severe cold front, and the weather's kind of stabilized. The winds have laid down, and we're kind of a little bit back to normal. But we're kind of in this transition of spring to pre-summer, I call it. We're kind of skipping over spring and went from this winter pattern all the way almost kind of like to a pre-summer pattern. And kind of got fish kind of, moving around a little bit more than they probably should. So you got to, definitely find them. And, but when you do, you generally find them bunched up. And that's more, the backcountry is still pretty predictable. You're still going to find your redfish and snook in their normal haunts, this time of year. But the trout are still around. That's not a problem. We're starting to see, some migratory tarpon starting to show up. If we didn't have that cold front, we'd probably be in the first wave of them right now. But expect that to get really good in the next couple of weeks. We'll probably be talking about that in weeks to come. But where it's really affected stuff is the offshore bite and the nearshore bite. Those fish are just kind of scattered. The traditional fish, this time of year aren't quite where they are. But there is one good silver lining, and that's the cobia. The cobia have been all over the nearshore wrecks and reefs. They've been big, they've been small, and they've been plentiful. So that's a real good thing because we don't get too big of windows with that, but we're starting to see a nice little spring run of cobia right now, and the permit are also there too. So the permit fishing is only going to get better as we get into April, and in May is the pinnacle of our season. So look for the next 8 weeks, to have some really good permit fishing and some cobia fishing as well. So that's kind of where we're at on that side.
Yeah, I tell you, the cobia fishing on the East Coast for the last week or so, even before that front, been pretty tough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've been seeing them. That's the good thing. So they've been showing up. I'm not asking questions because we don't get a real strong run of them like the East Coast guys do. But when they do show up, they're usually here for a good 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm hoping that sticks around here for next month and a half, 2 months.
All right, good deal. Hey, I got a question for you. You got one that haunts you?
Yeah, I've caught I've lost some really, really big fish personally and with customers. But I got to tell you one, there's always one fish that sticks out. It's not even close to being the biggest one, but it's by far and away the biggest triple tail I've ever seen. And it just so happened that our former editor, David Conway, had called me and said, let's do a triple tail piece 2 years ago. And I said, yeah, let's do it. Went out, had a great day, had a great article about it, some great photos. But the very first fish I saw that day, Rick, I've had not a lot, but I've had quite a few fish over 15 pounds in my career. And this fish was all of 20 and then some. David and I saw it, as clear as day, perfect morning, one cast, right on it, perfect lighting, everything was perfect, ate it right away, had it on, 3 real strong runs, it jumped twice. I got the net in the hand, and it came unbuttoned.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally, we had nothing, I don't think I did anything wrong. It's just one of those things. And I was fine up until that point. I really was. And I literally sat down, kind of put my head in my hand, and I look up, David looks at me, and he goes, that would have been the cover.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that's what stung the most.
That'll put you on the cover of the Rolling Stone. There ain't no doubt.
Oh, man. It's, him and I had always joked through the years that, I was fine until he said that. And he always apologized for that. He's like, that was salt in the boots. But, again, it's not so much the big ones that you made. The story about Nick was incredible, but sometimes those, certain fish, just absolutely hurt you, and that one.
Oh yeah. I was fishing with a dear friend of mine one evening who was a lifelong trout fisherman. Speckled trout were his thing. It's all he cared about was catching big ones. And we were on big ones, and we were catching big ones. And he was throwing over the top of some rocks and walking it back across. And on the far side of the rocks, he got a bite. And we saw the fish, and neither one of us had seen a fish like that. And we didn't think we had a chance of bringing him through the rocks. And I'll be darned if he didn't bring that fish through the rocks. We saw her clearly. She was over 12 pounds. And she just, and Steve, she just turned around and swam back through the rocks. Just like that. And broke him off. He threw his rod down in the boat, sat down, and wouldn't fish for a week. It was a week before I could get him to fish again.
It's unbelievable. And that's the beauty. That's why we come back, right?
That's why we come back. Cap, I appreciate it so much, as always. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Our thanks to Steve Dahl for a great 10,000 Islands report. Now, let's shoot up the coast and check in with our buddy Ray Markham. Ray, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
How are you? How are things in West Central Florida?
Well, I guess if you haven't read the news lately, we're all sitting on pins and needles. As far as the fishing last week was concerned, it was pretty doggone good here. However, now we're sitting looking at a potential disaster for Tampa Bay with the Piney Point issue going on with a gypsum stack full of water that's got acid and nitrogen, phosphates, and everything else, and they're pumping out millions of gallons of water per day in an effort to reduce the amount of pressure on the system so the entire thing doesn't collapse and 500 million gallons go into the bay.
Just stop it.
So,
oh no, don't even tell me that. That's terrible.
it's not looking good, but we're hopeful that the whole thing doesn't break before they were able to disperse this stuff. I mean, this has been an ongoing problem now for decades, and it's not getting better, but it's to the point where it needs to be fixed, period, and be done with it. It's a situation that could absolutely blow up red tide here in the area. It's the nutrients that are in it that come from the manufacturing of phosphates and actually nitrogen and fertilizer. When this stuff is dumped into the bay, it basically is fertilizing whatever algae that's in the bay that could contribute to red tide. So hopefully things are not going to be bleak and dismal, but they will get this thing contained and fixed. I mean, that's what we're all sitting here hoping, because we're all sitting here also thinking that there's a possibility at the end of May that they could reopen redfish and trout. So we shall see.
Yep. All we can do is wait and see at this point. Tell me how your fishing's been this week.
Yeah, it's been really pretty crazy. You know, the trout fishing's been really good coming off of this full moon. We've had some really good action with snook. And redfish have been absolutely crazy around it. They're ganging up in certain spots, and guys are just whacking them with all kinds of baits, artificial and live bait. And the guys that are fishing offshore, they are absolutely having killer days with kingfish. You know, there's some of the tournaments are starting this weekend with the Suncoast Kingfish Tournament that's kicking off, and towards the end of the month, you got the King of the Beach, and I'm sure there's several others in between. But the offshore scene is pretty doggone good. I mean, the guys are sitting there. I do believe there's several openings coming up here. May 1st, there'll be a few more species they can target. And then come June 1st, of course, Gag Grouper will reopen again. Things are looking up in wherever you find it. You can't just count on one specific thing to be perfect all the time, but, you know, keep my fingers crossed and a prayer from the man above that things go right.
I'm with you there 100%, Cap. Well, that's fantastic fishing. That sounds good. Please tell me we can check with you next week, and we're going to have prayers sent and fingers crossed for good news on the problem there.
All right, buddy. Sounds like a plan.
Thank you, Ray.
We'll catch you later.
Captain Ray Markham checking in from West Central Florida. Now we get to work our way up into the Big Bend, and we'll check in with Captain William Toney. Hello, William Toney. How are you?
Doing good, Rick. Right down here in downtown Homosassa, we just had some beautiful day out here, and, you know, it's winding down. The sand gnats are out for dinner, and, you know, we done cleaned some trout for dinner, some redfish for dinner, some snook for dinner.
Woo, that'll work.
You know, we threw back more than you know we took home, which is the right and good thing to do.
Yep, it sure is. That's great. It sounds like wintertime's over for us, doesn't it?
Yep. Well, you know, we had a little bit of a blow last week. And matter of fact, this past Saturday morning or Friday morning, we were down to 37 here.
Yep.
Which is just crazy. Now, it didn't last. It rebounded. Now, coming here into the weekend, it's definitely, we got some nice 80-degree weather. But we're looking at some really good tides coming toward this weekend in the afternoon and get toward that new moon. So if you want to do some really good inshore fishing on the Big Bend, you know, you can't get any better than getting out there. You know, I wouldn't get up at daylight. There's no use doing that. You know, eat some breakfast, get out there around 9 and fish that little bit outgoing. And that incoming tide should be around midday, mid-afternoon. And we've been getting those big old gator trout up here on the Rocky Points and those submerged rock piles anywhere around the Homosassa Bay, Chassahowiska Bay. Now, when you get up there north, the water gets a little bit darker, but the spoil banks out of Crystal River is also a good spot for big trout. And then up there toward 11 Prong, and then you get up there toward Cedar Key, it gets even darker, but there's some good bars and all that just off of the keys out there in front of the town. And then next stop's up there toward Horseshoe, and that Horseshoe, those sandy potholes out there, really, really good for trout on a DOA jerkbait. And then you got Steenahatchee and their grass flats and Keaton Beach and so on up there. It's just going to be great for the trout. Now, looking for those redfish, they're going to be on those points or those deeper shorelines, I always tell people the last hour of the incoming tide is always a magic hour on the redfish, and a good search bait is a gold spoon, but good live baits is pinfish. I don't even throw a net in my boat. I keep a little teeny old, I call it a hair hook. We used to catch them, well, they're wild shiners. We call them roach fish, but we'd have a little dough ball, that little hair hook. But you can take that same little hook out there and right where you're fishing, catch all the pinfish you need for your redfish bait, or get you some live select shrimp will work very good also. And on those snook, that glow jerk bait will work very good, but don't get right up on the point. A lot of them in our area are hanging out about 50 yards away from there. So if you see a sandy pothole that all suddenly shifts and looks from yellow to black, those snook are going to be laying in it.
Okay, so they're out from the point. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep. As the tide gets up, sometimes you'll get a few like right on it where people just, if you're an angler, you're going to look at the structure and be like, okay, like a bass angler, you're going to pick the side of the shoreline that looks like it's going to hold bass. Same looks good for all here around the Big Bend, but especially here Citrus County coastline. It's not necessarily true that those snook will be right up on the edge. They lay just off. Usually they're like the head of the pecking order. They're ahead of the redfish, and the redfish are ahead of the trout, as the point would lay out as far as the underwater rocky structure. And a lot of times there will be sandy potholes out there, and they could be anywhere from 15 feet long to 5 foot wide. They could be 30 foot long and 15 foot wide. And it's just a depression. And those fish on the low water will hang right in those depressions. And as soon as that tide starts to flow in, anything that gets swept into that is nothing but just, they'll suck it right in. I know a lot of people are freelining threadfin if you can find them, or chumming it, which I'm more an artificial guy, so I like that DOA jerk bait. A live target works really well. Anything that looks like a small mullet or a threadfin, even the little meridines, with a green silver, or I call it the needlefish color, blue silver, green silver. They love gobbling those up also.
Perfect. That's an outstanding report, William. I tell you what, you've always got it going on over there, but it sounds like it's only getting better as we get into spring.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, buddy. We appreciate it. Please tell me we can talk with you next week.
Yep, I'll be right here in downtown Homestead. I see a golf carter. He looks like he's speeding. I'm going to have to tell him to slow down.
Pull him over.
They got plenty of food down there. McCrae's or down at the Florida Cracker. It's all right. You ain't got to speed like that, buddy.
Well, save me a scallop, will you, brother?
Absolutely. Looking forward to that there, Rick. It's going to be a good time.
Thank you, William. You take care. Captain William Toney bringing us the news from the Big Bend area.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahanoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to you second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. All right, let's check in with our man, Captain Kevin Lanier, as we head out into the Northwest area. Kevin, you with us?
Hey, Captain Rick, I'm with you. How you doing?
I'm okay, but what I want to know is, are you peachy?
I'm peachy. I'm an old Georgia boy, so anytime I'm in a good mood, I'm peachy.
Well, good. I'm glad you're in a good mood. All right, any fish get caught out there this week?
Oh, yeah, Captain Rick, we've been chasing those spawning sheephead around here, around the near shore reefs, and we've been getting some. We got some 5-pounders. You know, those old convicts been bending the rods. You can tell they're primed for spawning. The Spanish mackerel are in. What's been really cool about our Spanish mackerel is they seem to be about midsummer size versus first thing in the spring size.
Good deal. That's a good thing. So you're getting some 3-4 pounders?
Oh yeah. The Spanish have been really nice size. You know, the nice thing is we go out and we try for to get us some Spanish mackerel, and then we go in cruise the beaches for the Spanish mackerel. Or watch the schools are raised, and we're looking for the cobia. So this time of year where we start picking things up. Haven't done much offshore, but we're going to do some of that this week. So we're looking forward to that.
Everybody seems to be wondering where the cobia are. I know it's tough on this coast. Is it tough over there?
It's Captain Rick, to be real honest. We used to have a cobia tournament in late mid-April. We've actually quit having that the last couple of years because there's not enough cobia here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the state needs to take a look at that. That's one of the things. You wonder when we're in a crisis why the state doesn't look at it. But that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, I got a question for you before you go. All right? Our buddy Nick Stanzik spent 7 hours on a sword last week on a charter, and the charter finally had to go in. They dialed up so much pressure that the splice failed, and they lost him. And Nick was talking about how that fish is going to haunt him for a long, long time. He did see him jump. It was a sword. If you got one that haunts you to this day, Kevin?
Oh, I do. I was down in Cabo and we were fishing for tuna. We fished all day long, kite fish, did everything we could. Did not get one. We're running in, and the captain comes off the throttle, starts screaming to get the lines out. We throw out the troll gear. We don't even get the first one locked into gear. We get fish on. I'm sitting there in the harness, and I'm fighting this fish, and we're working it, and as hard as I can work them, and I know good and well it's a big yellowfin, and we keep working. The captain can see it from the tower. We get it about 30 feet from the boat, and I feel it had to been the tail. I feel the tail vibrate, pop, it comes loose. Captain said it looked like about 150 pounders. So that one will go down in the books for me.
You know, every tuna's got the same thing in common for me. Every time I see them, they look up at me and they say, "Yeah, you think I'm done, don't you?" I mean, they don't. There is nothing harder than the last 50 yards on a big tuna. That's for sure. I agree. That's a great report, and I just think how big that tuna is now. How long ago was that, Kevin?
Oh well, it's at least 400 pounds.
There you go. So there's your story. It was a 400-pound tuna. He's that big now.
Hey, I'm a born and bred fisherman. I know how those fish grow as the years go on.
Ain't that the truth? Thank you, Cap. We appreciate it so much.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
Captain Kevin Lanier. Now, you can't get out of Florida till you go out the Panhandle, so let's see what's up with Tyler Massey. Tyler, any fish in that area this week?
Oh, yeah, fishing's been good, and we've been going fishing every day.
Oh, outstanding. What are you catching?
You know, inshore, it's been pretty good. Lots of Spanish mackerel around. You know, our water temperature jumped up a little bit. There's been, you know, a lot of Spanish around our pass, down our beaches, and then up in the bays a little bit. Not too far, but closely or mostly near the pass. Our speckled trout are moving out of the canals and out of the rivers, so we're starting to catch those over the grass. It's our big transition period. You know, it's going from our winter, early spring fishing to our spring, summer fishing. So trout are coming out of the bayous and the canals and stuff, and they end up on the grass. Redfish are, you know, hanging around docks and bridge structures. So everything's really coming together right now inshore for sure.
Outstanding. Anything going on in the ocean yet? You see any cobia?
Yeah, there's been a couple cobia caught. It seems like our water temperature's a little bit cool. I know on the East Coast, guys, cobia fishing, they do follow temperature quite a bit. Over here, you know, we want it to be, you know, above 68, 70 degrees is when we start to see quite a few more. There's been a couple caught, probably nothing to get too excited over yet, but in the next couple weeks, there should be a few more moving down the beaches. Offshore bottom fishing's been pretty good. We were catching our triggerfish, vermilion snappers are biting good, and that's pretty much what we're focusing on now. And then in a couple weeks, we'll have some amberjack to chase after, so that'll be good.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Things are getting better every day. I love this time of year. I tell you what, I think every calendar should have 2 Aprils, 2 Mays, 2 Junes, and no August. No August, no September. You with me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Tyler. We appreciate it a lot.
No problem. We'll see you, Rick.
Captain Tyler Massey checking in from Pensacola, and what a fun trip it's been around the state tonight where everybody's in a good mood. It seems like things are getting better. We're just on the edge. They're not fantastic yet. Nobody knows where all the sailfish are. They don't seem to have shown up anywhere, but I'll bet you a week of good weather will certainly change that. Now, there weren't too many cobia around the East Coast, and there weren't too many around the West. Captain Tyler Massey said the first few have shown up, so it looks like they might be running a week or two late this year. Spawn and sheepshead. There's been plenty of spawn and sheepshead. They're in the Panhandle. Captain Kevlinier said they've been doing the 5-pound plus ones regularly, and they're carrying roe. It is that time of year. I tell you what, everything is on the edge. Don't miss next week's report because we got great weather coming up, and I'll bet you there's going to be great fishing to be had. I sure enjoyed doing this week, and I want you to remember that this report and every report we do is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By DOA Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat span and offshore hybrids? You want to check out youngboats.com. Hey, listen, we sure hope you enjoy the podcast. We've got a lot of exciting stuff laid out for you for the month of April, and we hope you're going to enjoy it. So please tune in every week and tell your friends about it. We need our audience to grow, and we can have a lot more fun. We're getting plenty of great weekly reports from all around the state, and we don't want you to miss them. Hey, I'm Captain Rick Riles for Florida Sportsman Magazine, and until next week, we will see you on the rip.